Hello and welcome back. I just want to continue our discussions. We're going to call these little segments 5 minutes of relevance. And see, I wrote down my little list here. Yeah. And I just wanted to kind of talk to you about the most important things that are going on in the world today and how this affects politics. Like I spend probably 30 or 40 hours a week sifting through information before it finally gets put into the synthesis. I just want to consider a few things that need to be talked over with you. We'll be continuing this kind of series and focus as we go on through the next year. Thank you for joining me for the 5 minutes of relevance. Our first topic is going to be the Super Committee debt talks. We're at a very good point when it comes to making some sort of consensus within our own government as to the cuts that need to be made. We've also petitioned Sarkozy, the defense minister of Mexico. We've talked to Greece and Italy during their transitions, and we feel that entitlement reform is necessary to bring about the problems that we have had with revenue and the issues of when it comes to not having a federal budget for 3 years. I also want to discuss this in relation to the Obummercare law that is now presently before the Supreme Court. 26 states have petitioned to say that this law is indeed unconstitutional because it makes the states carry a deficit against their budgets in violations of things such as the Commerce Clause and the 10th Amendment. The issue with the Obummercare law is that when it was enacted, it never provided anyone with any health insurance, and it was simply a mechanism put in place that was a funnel for Thompson Prison, a local expansion of prisons in order to medicate people into this notion that we must have another government program that is not funded for health care. Unfortunately, the premise for what it was made was for health care, and it has not provided anyone with health care. It has killed about 25 to 30 million jobs. There are now 49 million people living in poverty as opposed to the year before at 42 million. This is not what we had in mind when this law went into effect, as it has not produced any fruit whatsoever. The only contingency left of the law that could possibly be upheld that is not dead is the computer interface, but states have also argued that this is a breach of privacy. The person who was supposed to develop the software or the software company was never chosen by Obama for the health care law, which means that, in essence, it was written in misappropriation for its intended purposes. The money that was supposed to go for health care never would have gone to health care because it would have gone to prison expansion and other systems like that. Okay, I want to get to foreign policy. Today, Herman Cain was grilled, not on the debate stage, but by other people who were concerned with his foreign policy answers. Christiana Mampour was on Sunday, and she said to the guests on her show that she felt that Iran is not undergoing a regime change. What we do know is that Israel has confirmed that there was a nuclear type test that occurred, meaning that we can confirm that Iran knows how to use the weaponry and fire it off, but they do not have the raw materials of uranium and so forth to actually make their own nuke. So the next step with foreign policy, I think, is not to underestimate or guess about the cultural differences between Arabian countries. The slip came when Cain was being asked about these things, And he said, no, that's the other thing, as if he was on another country, or if he was so tired he couldn't remember. We have to remember that we need to select a leader that is a little bit more in tune to what is going on when it comes to the government's relationships to other countries, and being mindful of that when they speak to the press. Now I want to get into the Cain scandal itself. My issue and disappointment with Herman Cain is that he lied bold-faced to everyone on C-SPAN the Monday morning that he had, when he did not answer the press guy's question honestly. He confronted him. He asked him, he said, there's a story in Politico that's talking about there was a payout for sexual harassment. You know, would you like to clear it up? Herman Cain brushed it off and basically said that it never happened. And he was so nervous the rest of the time that they had him on camera that Herman Cain made me nervous enough to say, you know, I really don't want Herman Cain as my president. We have other issues with 999 being a series of funding for Obama's misappropriation. It's a 27% flat tax. It also has the value-added tax, which is pretty much like European economies, in that it's not really a national sales tax. You would still be paying 9% as opposed to the 7% for items, and this would be for all items bought and sold. So for some states that have 3 or 4% for food items and 7% for other items, this would now be one flat rate. It would help corporations, but it would seriously hurt small business owners in the church. I want to kind of touch on the Sandusky Scandal. There's been a very ugly outpouring of emotion, violence, people rioting at Penn State who are students who should know better than to conduct themselves in such a manner. I'm very disappointed with the leadership. I remember right before leaving high school that this issue with Sandusky came up then, and for it to come back and haunt Penn State 13 years later is pretty terrible. I had a sleeper's moment when the press put Sandusky's face out there with the things that he had done over the years, and we have a serious issue when it comes to protecting children in our society that we need to address with legislation. A lot of people have asked for laws regarding the protection of children to be upgraded. I know that we will have a fight on our hands if we try to go for public castration or things of that nature, but we must do something to curtail the abuse that permeates our society that we end up paying for. If you talk to many of the people who are in prison, they will tell you that they are probably victims of sexual abuse or other kinds of abuse in the home. And while I'm not justifying their behavior, it is definitely the underlying root of societal rot and decay, as well as it being a cancer that spreads to other people in society. The last thing that I want to talk about is getting involved. And what I mean by getting involved is not simply complaining, using the outlets that are available to you in such a way that are not productive. I see a lot of people who are generating complaint after complaint after complaint when they should be writing the House and the Senate, when they should be getting together as a group and saying we speak together as a group and this is how we feel. We have these common things that we need to address as grievances to the government. It's very important that you write things down, and that is probably what separates the Tea Party from most other kind of groups, is that we do get together routinely and we write things down other than just going out and screaming into the air. I saw an old man that held up a peace sign, and of all things on the peace sign, he said to shit can the Tea Party. Well, my message to Washington and our local government is it's time to shit can Occupy. Signing off.